available based on income and household size. Call today to make your appointment at 1-877-667-7017.
There's still lots of summer left to be enjoyed, and B&C Unique Boutique has lots of clothes perfect to take you through the summer, even into the start of the school year. From tops to shorts and jeans to dresses, t-shirts, shoes, and jewelry. Tuesdays are T-Shirt Tuesday. Get any graphic tee, $20 regular size or $22 plus size. They have t-shirts for ladies and men. So hurry in to a B&C Unique Boutique close to you in Princeton and Grand Rivers and social media.
The Great Wall Chinese Restaurant in Princeton. Stop in and enjoy a delicious, authentic Chinese buffet every day for lunch and dinner. You can also order for carryouts. They're open Tuesday through Sunday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and closed on Mondays. The Great Wall Chinese Restaurant is located at 420 U.S. Highway 62 in Princeton. Enjoy delicious, authentic Chinese cuisine by enjoying their delicious buffet or call in your pickup orders to 270-365-9920.
At YourSportsEdge.com, we strive every day to continue to bring you the gold standard in high school sports coverage with more on your teams and your players.
Or did it show up there?
And while they are not gold, those Crystal Awards we have won for doing what we love to do are pretty cool, too.
That's something you see every day.
The Kentucky Broadcaster's Best Digital Product Award winner. YourSportsEdge.com.
Shopping can be overwhelming. At Joe & Co. Boutique, it's their priority to get to know you. Enjoy a personal, stress-free shopping experience, making you feel valued as a customer and person. Joe & Co. is a size-inclusive boutique carrying clothing and gift favorites such as Judy Blue, Vintage Havana, Savannah Jane, and Kendra Scott. Located on Fairview Avenue in Eddyville, or shop joeandcoboutique.com.
Hey, besties. It's your girl, Jo. Can't wait to see you at the boutique.
It's time for your SportsEdge.com Sideline Report with Todd Griffin. Talking sports and more here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY and worldwide at WPKYonline.com. Here's your host, Todd Griffin.
Good morning, everyone. The Sideline Report is on the air from 1035 West Main Street in Princeton. This is Todd Griffin of WPKY Radio and your SportsEdge.com. Welcome to the Sideline Report. A lot of people on the show today, important people. We've got Gary Goodacre in the studio with us this morning. And first of all, Gary, good morning. Thanks for coming in and being on the show.
I'm happy to be here. I'll decide with Chris whether I'm Ed McMahon or Doc Severinsen today.
And also joining us on the phone from Bowling Green, it's Chris George. Chris, welcome back to the Sideline Report.
Thanks always for having me on the sideline. You are definitely Doc, Gary, because I would want to be Ed.
I knew you'd want to be Ed.
So did you guys know this is the 251st episode of the Sideline Report?
Only through social media.
Oh, you saw that.
There was buzz. It's everywhere.
I missed it.
Yeah, so it's
But why were we not the 250th episode? I mean, 251st.
Well, I tried to get you guys on earlier, but it just kind of worked out that we ended up on today. And honestly, I didn't realize that last week was the 250th show until this week. So that's why this week is the 251st episode of the Sideline Reports.
Well, we're glad to be here nonetheless. We're glad to be here. We're honored as always.
Well, and I think the two people that have been on the show the most, except for me and Ty Englebright, are Gary Goodacre and Chris George.
Well, you have good taste then. That's all I've got to say.
Gary and Chris are with us this morning on the Sideline Report. We're going to talk a lot of different things about sports. We'll see what comes up, so stay with us. We'll continue after this timeout here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Get into shape and feel good at Trilogy Performance Sports. Trilogy offers a wide range of family-friendly classes as well as personal training, yoga, gymnastics, sports training, cardio, and weightlifting. Trilogy has something for everyone. Trilogy now offers an app with online workouts, live classes, nutrition tracking, and more. Search Trilogy Performance Sports in your app store. Use sign-up code 1824. For app info and more, follow them on Facebook.
Life
is filled with moments. Moments we share with those we love, worry about, and strive to protect the most. At Woodman Life, we provide life insurance and retirement products to help protect you and your family so that you can enjoy all the moments to come.
This is Josh Ray, your local Woodman Life agent. Come see us at 1009 West Main Street or give us a call at 365-6111.
Certain eligibility and age restrictions apply. Woodman of the World Life Insurance Society, Omaha, Nebraska.
It's an excellent time to purchase a new set of tires and take advantage of the new mail-in rebates of up to $200 on selected tires. Good tread depth and the correct air pressure in your tires can lead to improved fuel economy, increased handling and safety, more responsive braking, and a smoother ride. All things that make for a great summer road trip. Trice Hughes in Princeton is the one-stop shop for everything your vehicle needs. For more information, visit tricehughes.com. That's tricehughes.com.
Ready to brave the challenge? Need a kickstart to your career in criminal justice? The Kentucky State Penitentiary is seeking motivated individuals up for the challenge. Openings now for correctional officers in Eddyville at the state's only maximum security correctional institution. Applicants must be high school graduate or have GED. 20 years of age, drug screening, testing, and background checks required. Apply on Facebook or Instagram or call Lieutenant Primo 270-625-8146. Kentucky State Penitentiary, an equal opportunity employer, male, female, disabled.
Christian Care Center of Catawba is now Landmark of Catawba. The ownership and name have changed, but the caring and commitment from the staff and administration is the same. Landmark of Catawba cares for their residents, and you can be assured your loved one will be treated with the dignity, courtesy, and compassion they deserve. The residents are friends and family to them, and they do their best to ensure that each one lives to the fullest of their ability, nurturing body, mind, and spirit. Call Landmark of Catawba 270-388-2291.
We are back on the Sideline Report at 1580 103.3 WPKY. Thank you for tuning in this morning. Joining us on the show today, we've got the Caldwell County Stat Crew, at least most of it, Gary Goodacre and Chris George joining us today. And guys, we're going to start with a little realignment talk. And I'm not really sure what's going on with colleges, especially college football, but I was in Nashville at Nissan Stadium last Thursday. You know, I had just seen Joan Jett, and then I was waiting for Def Leppard to come out, so I thought, well, I will see what's going on my telephone, check Twitter, and I saw USC and UCLA to the Big Ten, and my first thought is, well, that's kind of dumb. Why would anybody think that? And then I got to looking closer, and I'm like, no, wait a minute. They're saying they're going to the Big Ten. It's not just somebody's dream. Those schools are actually going to the Big Ten. So, Chris, the Big Ten now goes from New York City, or at least the New York area with Rutgers, all the way out to Los Angeles. How crazy is that?
I think it's really interesting and intriguing that I think the Big Ten is, I think the SEC may have been sleeping at the wheel because USC and UCLA are big gets. You're bringing a top 5 television market in Los Angeles. And I think we could really see the Big Ten go to 20, realistically go to 20 and have 4 or 5 team divisions going coast to coast. The question is, who are the other 3 on the West? What are the other 3 dominoes out West to fall so they could have the 5 teams out West? So I think it's just the start of, what we've been anticipating to happen. And I think the Big Ten took the first swipe at and going big. That was their check to the SEC, getting Oklahoma and Texas. They went out and got 2 big fish of their own.
Well, if you're going to go for 20 and you want 4 5s, I would think by the Big Ten culture, Stanford and Cal academically fit very well with the Big Ten. California is very up and down in their football, where I would say Stanford on a whole has been pretty solid. I think that finding 3 is going to be interesting because, as you know, you're looking for someone that doesn't have a logical partner. Oregon would have to give up Oregon State. Washington would have to give up Washington State. I think they would in a heartbeat because the money's too good. But what you're looking at is cultural fits, as well as when you say markets. Yeah, LA is a big market, but LA has so many things to spread out its demand. How rabid is the college football base, and what is the demand? What % of that market are you going to get? Yeah, you can check the box, but how many eyeballs in the LA area are going to be on Big Ten football? That's a question that I don't know, and I'm sure somebody in research could find out, though.
Well, and one thing I was going to bring up, Gary, at what point do state legislatures jump in and decide that Oregon and Oregon State can't go separate places?
I think eventually the money will be so great that they simply won't care. I think that we've come to the point now where it's, musical chairs, and there aren't very many chairs, and I think it's every school for itself. And state legislatures may try, and of course I suppose they could do it, but that could be put into court. You could get an injunction. By the time that goes through, you could already have the contract signed, and then by the time it gets to the final court of appeal, it'll be moot. So I think it's just the wild, wild west, pun intended.
Yeah, Chris, wasn't that an issue with, like, Virginia when the SEC was trying to get a Virginia or a North Carolina that, Virginia would only come if Virginia Tech came with them?
I seem to recall there was a set that happened with, I can't remember exactly the two institutions, but yeah, it was a set that they were saying, no, they go as a pair. And, I think ultimately that's going to end up hurting some schools if the state legislators say y'all got to go as a pair, because you look at Arizona State. I believe Arizona State could be a player in all this realignment because of the Phoenix market, but if they're forced to take Arizona, maybe you don't want them. I think a lot of schools that think they're big players in college football are getting ready to realize they're second-class citizens, and there's going to be some schools like Missouri, Vandy, Rutgers to be happy that they're at the right place at the right time.
What I think would make this get fixed a lot quicker, fixed is a bad word because it's not so much that it's broken, it's just modifying itself, is if a new format for a national champion were to be determined and disseminated, and then everyone would be climbing onto whatever platform would get them the best chance for it. Notre Dame is sitting back going, I'm good. I don't have a championship to play. All I got to do is pick the 12 teams I want, go 11-1 or 12-0, and let these behemoths knock each other out. If you have a scenario where they say, Notre Dame, if you're not in a conference, you're just flat out not going to get picked, well, then Notre Dame has to pick a conference. You've got basically two conferences that probably are more interested in their market and their deal than the school itself, and you're going to get into a bidding war. I think the whole thing hinges upon how will the playoff format past the current one we have be implemented. Then everyone's going to know what the rules are.
But, Gary, don't you see this trending toward two potentially 24-team conferences, and it's essentially college football has become the AFC and the NFC, and it's probably going to be the Big Ten and the SEC, who have two drastically different cultures, the more academic schools being in the Big Ten because that is their culture, because they have certain rules around which schools can be in the Big Ten. You have to be an AAU institution to be in the Big Ten. So don't you see that's where this is potentially trending?
I think you could almost get to the point where you have a Big Ten champion and an SEC champion, and that being so amazingly worth doing that that's just all there is. And they keep all the money for themselves. If you had a 24-team SEC, can you imagine an 8-team playoff within that? The money would be astounding. The same for the Big Ten. You got 24 teams. It's very NFL-ish, if you will. And that money package, I mean, I guess if you really wanted to do AFL, NFL Super Bowl type thing, and then finally you do that, I mean, you'd have to figure out how many games to play because you do want to make sure that the student athletes don't turn into 20-game seasons. But I think that's what you're going to end up with is a mega playoff deal within each conference because the TV ratings would be astronomical.
Yeah, you think you have a 8-team playoff within the SEC, the 4 winners and 4 wild cards, same thing in the Big Ten.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get down to the Big Ten champion versus the SEC champion. I mean, the money's crazy. And like you said, you could fill up the Superdome for the SEC championship game. You already fill up the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for it. What is that worth now for this group TV-wise? I mean, the SEC and the Big Ten could probably get a package that rivals what the NFL gets because they've got it all. And you're going to have a lot of schools that are going to be on the outside looking in, and they're going to be the USFL or the CFL or whatever, because the big boys are going to keep it all for themselves, and it's going to be 48 of them playing together. That's just where I see this thing going.
What I think, though, you've got to realize the hidden gem in this is 12 SEC games. Now that's going to hurt the smaller schools because the paychecks aren't going to be there. But I think if you're going to do it this way, then SEC has a 12-game SEC regular season, and the Big Ten has a 12-game Big Ten regular season, because you're going to need it for seeding, because you can't play everybody. So you're going to have a way to seed who's 1 through 8. But a SEC football package is more appealing if every game is an SEC game, and likewise for the Big Ten.
Well, the one question I have in all this is when realignment first came about, conferences were trying to extend their geographic footprint. You didn't want to bring in another school like the Southeastern Conference, for example. There's no reason to bring in a Louisville because you already have the Kentucky market with the University of Kentucky. So now we see scenarios where, hey, maybe Clemson is going to go to the SEC, or maybe Florida State is going to go. Well, the SEC is already in South Carolina. The SEC is already in Florida. Do bringing those teams in actually help the conference, or are now you just splitting the money additional ways without, more benefit of more eyeballs on the TVs?
Well, there's already 16 with Oklahoma and Texas. So if you go to 24, I guess the question for me is, which way do you go? You're probably not going to go very far north because most of them are going to want to probably go the Big Ten. You might get West Virginia, pluck them off. You might decide to go for some more Texas schools like Baylor or something like that. But I think the SEC's model is going to be more southern. They're going to trust that if the market is small, they'll take a rabid small market with a higher percentage than a passive big market with a lower percentage. They're going to go for rabid over large, if you will, because they're used to that. Most of the markets in the SEC aren't very big. I mean, Nashville's big, but it's Vanderbilt. So what percentage of Nashville is hardcore Vandy fans? So I think the Big Ten has the better chance to swoop and get those teams from the West, especially the academically oriented ones.
Well, you look at an Oregon, I think you've mentioned those earlier, a Washington. Could those schools potentially end up in the SEC if the Big Ten says, we don't really need you guys right now, we've got USC and UCLA?
See, I tend to think the SEC is still going to keep geography in mind and not really go west. I think as far west as they may go could be an attempt to grab a Colorado to pair them with the Texas schools, maybe Arky and Oklahoma, if that was their plan. So I think the SEC is going to go after probably a North Carolina, a Clemson, a Florida State. You continue to hear Virginia Tech linked to the SEC. I believe as they attempt to get to their potentially 24, it's going to be more on the eastern side of the country. I think North Carolina, I look for Wake Forest and NC State along with Louisville to potentially be big losers in this potential realignment going bigger. I think West Virginia could be a potential SEC target as well, just to get that state. Not that it really brings that much TV-wise.
I think Miami, Florida is one I think you didn't say, that I think that's a different market. I think the Gainesville market and the Miami are different culturally. They're different in parts of the state. I like where you're going there. I do think they would be willing to take Baylor and maybe Texas Tech, just because Texas Tech is more out in the western part, and it keeps the footprint. I do agree with you, Chris, that the SEC is going to try to stay along a contiguous southern line. And yes, California would be appealing, but there comes a point to where I think if given the choice, they're going to pick the schools you mentioned over, say, a Stanford or a Cal Berkeley.
Well, who would have thought even 5 years ago, though, that we'd be sitting here talking about Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC and now USC and UCLA to the Big Ten? I mean, that's just, Chris, that's how far we've come with the realignment talk.
I know. I always thought there would be 4 16 to 20 team super conferences. I thought the ACC would figure out how to survive because they have having a Virginia Tech, a North Carolina, Duke, a Clemson. I thought they had enough across the 2 big sports to survive. I also thought the Big 12 would have survived, but I never saw Oklahoma and Texas come into the SEC. So I just think it's wild, but I'm enjoying it because I think it's what needs to happen to take college football to the next level. But like I said, there are going to be some schools, I believe, in North Carolina State, a Wake, potentially a Louisville, Memphis, Houston. They're going to be left out in the cold.
We're talking this morning with Gary Goodacre and Chris George here on the Sideline Report. Need to get to a break, but we'll continue right after this here on 1580 103.3 WPKY.
Black Patch Grill is a bar and grill with a twist. Come in and try authentic Irish fare or your favorite Southern comforts.
From the Weather Edge Weather Center, the excessive heat warning continues through 9 o'clock tonight for the entire listing area. Chance of showers, thunderstorms up to about 50% chance in the afternoon. Otherwise, 97 for a high temperature today, with a heat index topping out around 112 degrees. Tonight, slight chance of showers, thunderstorms, and the overnight low down to 73 with partly cloudy skies. 50% chance of showers, thunderstorms on Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 97 degrees. Heat index up to 111 on Friday. Once again, excessive heat warning in effect through 9 o'clock tonight for the entire listing area.
What are we going to do? Doctor, will he be okay?
Unexpected happens. Goodwin Insurance Agency has you covered with auto, home, life, commercial, boat, and RV insurance. That way, when the unexpected happens...
Congratulations! It's a girl!
You're covered.
Goodwin Insurance of Princeton, Cadiz, or Marion, or online at insurewithgoodwin.com.
The Auction Center in Princeton is open every day, Monday through Friday from 10 to 4. Yeah, you'll love going there for auctions, but you don't have to wait for an auction. You can shop any day of the week. You'll find a large selection of quality used furniture for sale, like bedroom suits, tables, chairs, chests, accessories, and as Wayne likes to say, just a lot of good stuff. Stop in soon at the Auction Center, Highway 62 West in Princeton. Open Monday through Friday from 10 to 4.
Gary Goodacre and Chris George are with us on the Sideline Report this morning. Welcome back to the WPKY studios. This is Todd Griffin of WPKY Radio and YourSportsEdge.com. Talking realignment this morning. And Chris, I want to throw a little something else at you. Where does Western Kentucky end up maybe in some of this realignment talk? Is Conference USA really a good fit for the Hilltoppers?
You know, that's still a touchy subject for me, Todd, as a Hilltopper. I was very adamant amongst other Topper fans, that WKU made a mistake when the Big 12 expanded and grabbed up several of the Conference USA schools. First off, you know, being a founding member of the Sun Belt clearly did not want WKU back because WKU jumped ship a couple of years ago to go to Conference USA. But what upset me most is there was a lot of talk around town that the Toppers had an opportunity to go to the MAC, and I thought the MAC would be a good fit for WKU, and I was very upset that the athletic administration chose to partner with Middle and hitched our wagon to Middle, saying if Middle went, we would go, but if Middle stayed in Conference USA, the Toppers would stay. And my thing is, Middle would sell WKU out in a minute, but WKU chose to try to help Middle, who supposedly has some athletic budget issues, and I really felt Mac would have been a good spot. You know, Maction is a national brand. Yeah, they play Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, but still, it's a national brand. It's a fun brand of football. It's the brand of football Topper fans like, big high scores, throwing the ball all over the place. And I think they made a mistake, and we're going to continue to pay for that mistake because Conference USA has essentially become probably the worst football conference in college football, and we're stuck.
Well, nobody wants to take a step backward, but would the Sun Belt actually be a better fit right now for Western Kentucky?
I don't think the Sun Belt, I don't think they're welcome.
Oh, well, maybe the Sun Belt would swallow its pride and, you know, get Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee back in, and, you know, you kind of bring that rivalry with you. And it seems like the Sun Belt has been badly managed through the years.
Sun Belt, in my opinion, Todd, is in better shape than Conference USA right now.
Oh, wow.
Well, right now, because of the defections, probably.
Yeah.
Before that, I would say CUSA was probably a little bit better. But what I'm interested about, other than the conference alignment, how is NIL going to hit the middle-level schools, the MAC and such? Because, I mean, the money is going to be crazy if you're going to get into one of the big schools, and it's only going to get refined. These schools are going to figure it out quick. They lose a couple of recruits, and the salary cap will take care of itself. But then what about at a Western, a place that's good football, solid? You can get drafted from Western. You can get to the league from Western. But you probably cannot compete money-wise. How do you get the deals to the players that you want without just mortgaging all your other resources away from, for lack of a better word, salaries?
I don't understand how NIL is going to impact the mid-major schools, because first off, I think it's going to hurt mid-major football because you've got 85 guys on the roster. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. I believe mid-major basketball will probably be able to survive because it's only 12 guys on the roster and probably only 2 or 3 worthy of being paid. But I think it's going to be a major impact. I think the days of a high 3-star, low 4-star, you know, doing something off the wall and picking a mid-major school for player development or whatever is probably going to slowly cease because guys want to get their paycheck.
But do you see the Westerns of the world almost falling into where they become farm schools? You've seen this with Mac and Davidson. I mean, that's where Kellen Grady was. I mean, do you think that they're going to end up people going, I'll be here a year or two, get numbers, and then I become, in essence, a free agent?
Well, that's the portal, and it's already happening. I mean,
right, but even more so with NIL is what I'm saying is that I'm not going to get the deal I want at Louisville. I'm not going to get the deal I want at Auburn. But I could be a stud freshman at Bowling Green, like in the MAC, or Kent, and maybe cement my brand with social media, perhaps some good statistics, get some buzz, and then go out on the portal and get deals that way that I didn't get as a freshman.
I tend to agree with you. I mean, and Topper football-wise, we kind of watched that happen. Our best offensive lineman is now at Ole Miss, and our best wide receiver is now at Penn State because after the season, they both had great years. They went in the portal, and they've landed other places, and I think that's going to happen more and more, that some of your under-recruited players are going to take a shot at a lower school and, like you said, take the free agency route and hit the portal and hopefully cash in with a little bit of money as well.
Yeah, it's just a different world, and I think we're used to seeing when it comes to college athletics. You talk about the getting paid to play and conference realignment going on all over the place. I mentioned earlier on this show, last few weeks that when I was at Richmond for the All-A Classic State Baseball Tournament, it was so weird walking around and seeing A-Sun logos on everything at Eastern Kentucky University because, to me, that's OVC country. Well, now, Gary, we're going to see that same thing when we go to Murray State because there's going to be those great big, capital letters, the Valley, on everything at Murray State.
And they're the ones that have, Arch Madness? Is that correct? So they'll be part of that. Now, Murray's brand in basketball, I think this is a very good time for them. I think they can get some, if they can figure out a way to pool resources. Now, Murray does not have, as far as I know, the resources that Bowling Green has, but they're going to pour it all into basketball, so there are going to be fewer people to pay, just coming out and saying it. I think Murray can really leverage being in the Valley, getting a little more TV, and if they can pool their resources, I think they can get some gems, and I think they can be really stellar in the Missouri Valley for basketball. I think they can be like one of the teams that you can count on getting a bid because they're not in a one-bid league anymore. That's a four-bid league some years, and if Murray does what it's been doing, I think they're going to be a routine NCAA team.
Well, that's the big thing is that the OVC was always a one-bid league. I mean, Chris, you had to win the OVC to get to the NCAA tournament. But now Murray State's in a situation to where, you can get an at-large bid. You go out and win 30 games some season, you're probably going to make the NCAA tournament, even if you don't, win the Missouri Valley.
Well, not only are you going to, if you win 26 to 30 games, are you going to get an at-large? I think Murray's going to be appropriately seeded moving forward. I believe they were undervalued seed-wise, coming out of the OVC, and would end up in a spot of an 10, 11, or 12 when their record and their quality of team indicated they probably should have been a 7 or 8. So I think Murray is in a great situation. And Gary, while Bowling Green is bigger and potentially has more resources, the problem for WKU is how many of their resources actually are people who identify more as a Louisville fan or a UK fan, and what businesses are actually giving to Louisville or UK, whereas Murray is the thing in Murray, Kentucky. So I can make an argument that Murray actually, as far as support financially for NIL, may be in a better situation than Bowling Green.
But they also have fewer. But they also have fewer because they're probably not going to get hot and heavy into the football. They're going to try to find 3 basketball players and make sure they're solid in the MVC because that's their brand. Not that Western's basketball is unimportant. In fact, it's good too, and I think they can do the same thing. I think they've got some good teams and they've had good records. It's just a matter of if football can, football will. And unfortunately for Murray, I think football is going to be a much more difficult road for them than basketball.
I'm sorry I'm about to offend any of my fellow Hilltoppers who are listening, and I know Todd has a lot of Hilltopper listeners, but Western basketball is a hot mess right now. Murray basketball is in much better shape. Western is at a crossroads and needs to figure out what they're going to do about Stansbury because it's not working. And we can't continue to live in the portal.
No, but the thing is, Western still has the historical cachet that the right person can really turn that around. But yes, I would say I agree with your assessment of Stansbury and the situation at this current time.
Going back to our original thing about realignment, and Chris, you can talk about this. An interesting question, I think, with all the realignment, and I don't think we're anywhere near done, but is there a master plan by these conferences, or do you think conferences are just kind of picking up teams as they come along? Did the SEC fall into Oklahoma and Texas? Did the Big Ten fall into USC and UCLA? Or is that all part of some bigger master plan that we're going to see come to fruition at some point?
I think the Big Ten, and I'm going to give the Big Ten and SEC credit for potentially having a master long-term plan for what they want to accomplish. I think the Big 12 is just trying to survive. And I think the ACC is probably now being reactive, thinking, are we next before they start poaching some of our name brand schools, and what are we going to do? I believe in the next 6 months, the ACC's got to make a big move to try to remain viable. And I don't know what that big move is, because within their geographic footprint, and they're more about their geographic footprint than the SEC, what are they going to do? Do they go attempt to poach West Virginia from the Big 12? What do they do? Where does Memphis play in all of this? Who has FedEx's money behind them? What the ACC's got to, they've got to make their next move. And if they don't, I believe they're going to see Clemson or North Carolina, or Virginia Tech move on, and then they're going to be just as reactive as the Big 12 trying to make reactive moves, because there are no mid-major schools left, with Houston, the Central Floridas moving on to the Big 12. There are no mid-majors left, with the exception of Memphis, that I believe can help one of the major conferences.
Well, we could talk about realignment all day. Maybe you guys have to come back soon and we'll pick it back up, but need to get to a break here on the show. When we come back, we'll talk a little high school sports. So stay with us. Chris George and Gary Goodacre on the Sideline Report this morning here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Enjoy breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Big John's Barbecue. Be sure to like and follow them on Facebook.
From the Weather Edge Weather Center, the excessive heat warning continues through 9 o'clock tonight for the entire listing area. Chance of showers, thunderstorms up to about 50% chance in the afternoon. Otherwise, 97 for a high temperature today, with a heat index topping out around 112 degrees. Tonight, slight chance of showers, thunderstorms, and the overnight low down to 73 with partly cloudy skies. 50% chance of showers, thunderstorms on Friday, mostly sunny with a high near 97 degrees. Heat index up to 111 on Friday. Once again, excessive heat warning in effect through 9 o'clock tonight for the entire listing area.
Need cash fast? Contact ABC Finance now.
Whether it's their first day of kindergarten or the first day as a senior in high school, you want your kids to have everything they need.
Don't let money worries stop you. Visit ABC Finance.
Hi, this is Savannah Seymour at the Princeton ABC Finance location.
And this is Todd Morris at the Hopkinsville location.
We can help you with all the things your child will need for school.
At ABC Finance, we provide loans up to $15,000.
We are locally owned and staffed, and decisions are made quickly, usually within an hour.
No appointment is needed. Walk-ins are welcome.
You can even give us a call and we will take your application over the phone.
Or apply online at abcfinanceonline.com.
Our commitment is to make the loan process quick, easy, and stress-free. We can even consolidate all loans into one easy payment. For more information and for great money and credit tips, like ABC Finance on Facebook.
All loans subject to normal credit approval.
This is the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY. Thanks for joining us this morning. Gary Goodacre and Chris George on the show with us, and we're going to talk a little high school sports right now. And Gary, it's difficult for me to wrap my head around this, but we're barely over 4 weeks away from the first football scrimmage.
Next month, first Friday in August, I believe that the Tigers are going to strap on those pads and head to Owensboro, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Owensboro Catholic with the first scrimmage, and then the next week, Owensboro High School will come here, and then we'll open up the season over at Christian County in the last matchup against the Colonels.
Yes, we're going to have at least one hole to plug in our schedule because we play both Christian County and Hopkinsville, and they will be the Wolfpack in 2023, so they may not have the school built, but they will play as a combined school. So, yeah, we're definitely going to have to get some scheduling issues taken care of, but you can't do that until the realignment.
Right, Chris. We're still kind of waiting on the new realignment proposal. I think in the past we would have had it by now, but COVID kind of got in the way of that and skewed the numbers a little bit. So it's going to be interesting when we finally see a realignment plan, exactly how the Class 2A First District is going to shape up.
Yeah, locally, you think there's any chance we will bump back to 3A, or are we firmly a 2A school now?
I think we're pretty much entrenched in 2A. The question is, will the rest of the district remain the same?
Well, I would welcome Mayfield and Murray going on, but that's just me.
But one thing that COVID's going to do is the numbers of enrollment are going to be so disparate from year to year because you're going to go over a 4-year period that hits the heart of COVID right in the middle of it. People homeschooling, do you count them? Or is a school going to want to say, well, this person went remote, so they were somewhere else trying to get their numbers to be in a certain place? I don't know why they would really want to do that, because you can appeal to play up or down anyway, but there's going to be some manipulation, and it's not going to be as easy as it's been in years past to determine who is really going to be the Class 2A, 1A, et cetera schools.
Yeah.
But
like I said, I'd welcome getting rid of Mayfield and Murray, or one of them at least. I don't really ever like having to play Murray. But.
Actually, if you want to think about it and think about maybe playing up to get away from those schools, I think maybe Class 4A is the place to go. I'm not sure the KHSAA would allow you to play up that far or not. And in the past, they have allowed teams to play up 2 classes. And you could almost make an argument that Madisonville is in that district, Hopkins County Central is in that district, and those are teams that are district opponents for Caldwell County in virtually every other sport.
That is a good argument.
Yeah, and
4A's a bear once you get to round 3, though.
Yeah.
Well, and there won't be a Hopkinsville. They'd been traditionally a 4A school recently, have they not?
Right.
And that will not exist. That could be one scenario that would help such an argument, is that they may drop to a 4-team district with Logan and Callaway and those 2 schools. They may be more want to put a 5th school in there, and if Caldwell were willing to do so, and with the geography being as it is, we'd be easily fewer drives and shorter ones. That could be an option. The question, as you said, the 3rd round's a bear, but then in almost every class, the 3rd round is a bear. I mean, if you look at Caldwell, if we can get to the 3rd round, we're not necessarily playing Mayfield. That's not a guarantee, because they reseed. You may be going to Lexington Catholic. I mean, you just don't know. So it's a bear anyway. So I think that one is where, hey, just look at the options, see what you've got, see the drives, with diesel being so high, and who knows if that's going to stay. I think any school that justifies due to driving distance with the prices of fuel, they may get us a more favorable look than in past years.
Yeah, I think the districts are pretty close to what we've got already.
You can make an argument that you're better off dealing with a Class 3A or 4A in the early rounds than dealing with Mayfield. Well, we're going back to the cross district. It takes away from having to deal with Mayfield or Murray 2 weeks later after you've already played them, which is, I'm glad the KHSAA caught a little bit of common sense and went back to cross district and just admitted they were wrong in thinking that you could save people time and money by playing your district the first couple of rounds. But I pulled up the KHSAA fellas, and 3A is not bad. Yeah, you're looking at a Tillman team that is on the rise and maybe getting back to their historic levels, but otherwise you're looking at Union, Webster, Trigg. That's not bad, and we play Union and Trigg already.
Of course, you got to look at the other district now that we cross district. So what is the 3A as you get to the 2nd district?
Glasgow, Hart, Taylor, Adair.
Okay. So you could have quite a drive if you happen to be the 3, for example, but in the district you've talked about, most years we're probably a 1 or a 2. So, yeah, 3A has some merit as well, but as soon as we say that, in 4 years, what if Trigg, has the class of their life and it all clicks for them? It's very hard to predict some things with players. Now, historically, yeah, we've had those schools' numbers, but, you got to maintain it. And I think we've got a staff that's going to maintain the quality. I think you just have to look at what's best for you in terms of rivalries and what's best for you in terms of your literal enrollment. Do you have enough kids to play at that level?
4A, your cross district looks to be, if they do 1 versus 2, Allen County, Russell County, Franklin, Simpson, Warren East.
Well, I'm glad they're doing the cross-districting. I think that's going to be very helpful to Caldwell. I think that we play a style that's pretty fast, and I think that it's a good advantage for us to play a team we have not played in the first round because of the way we try to move the ball. If you've played us the first time, you can somewhat prepare for it in a prep week, but on film, I think that you can try to learn our routes, I guess you could say, and anticipate things, but the kids themselves have to actually execute. And I think if we go tempo like we do, we usually do pretty well in a first matchup with teams.
Well, and if you look ahead to this season, Gary, I think you're going to see a Caldwell County team that is probably a little better offensively overall, more versatile than what we had last year. Chris, I'm not sure we're going to be quite as stout on the defensive side of the football, but it will be interesting to see how both sides of the football kind of come along like they did last season. You know, I thought we were a lot better team at the end of the year than when the season started.
You know, my thing is defense, and it's going to be hard to replace that defensive line the Tigers had last year with all three of those guys, two of them graduating, one of them moving on. You couldn't run the ball against that front. You just couldn't. So, and that really made the rest of the second and third levels of the defense better, knowing that that front four was taking care of their business, front three, front four, depending on how many hands they had on the ground on a particular play. But you weren't running the ball against those guys. You just weren't doing it. And I think that just made the overall defense better, and that's going to be hard to replace. Now, offensively, y'all know how I feel. Starts and stops with running the ball. If we can find somebody that can run the ball, I think our offense will click. Yes, we put up a lot of numbers over the years passing, but what always has impressed me through the years that we've been running the system is when we've had a phenomenal running back, our offenses were dynamic. The years we couldn't run the ball well, we struggled because it made us one-dimensional. So starts and stops, we're finding somebody to put in that backfield to run the ball.
This is the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY, Princeton, Kentucky. And, guys, we're about to run out of time, but, Gary, any final thoughts today before we head on out?
I do want to echo what Chris is talking about. I know that having that running back would be ideal, but I think with having to replace our quarterback, Jack Stevens, graduating, and replacing Logan Smiley, who was that running back you spoke of, I think we're going to end up having a lot of screens. I think we're going to run tunnels, and we're going to run things that are basically extended handoffs. I think we're going to have active linemen on the offensive end that will get out there and block downfield. Receivers are going to have to block for each other. I think we're going to have to run a lot of plays where they kind of look like jailbreaks almost on a lot of plays, and we're going to end up confusing defenses with scheme, and I think we have the athletes to do that on offense.
Chris, any final thoughts for us?
No, I had a final question as we ended the realignment. Who's Murray play football with now?
Murray will play in the OVC for one more year, and then we'll join the Missouri Valley Football Conference, which is actually a different organization than the Missouri Valley Conference, but the name is similar, and it's a lot of the same schools that are in the Missouri Valley play in the Missouri Valley Football Conference.
Okay, cool.
But that's a huge step up in football play from what Murray State has seen in the OVC. So Murray's really going to have to kick it into gear as far as its football program goes. And, you know, they've had some pretty decent teams the last couple of years, so I think they're at least headed in the right direction.
Are there any required facility upgrades for football? I think the Racer Basketball CFBC Center will be fine, but Roy Stewart Stadium, are they going to have to configure it differently, or do they think it's good as it is?
None that I know of. We can check into that, and when you guys come back, we'll talk about that.
Okay, that'd be great.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Chris.
I appreciate it. Always enjoy it, guys.
That's Chris George in Bowling Green. Gary, thanks for coming in this morning.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's Gary Goodacre here in the studios. This is Todd Griffin of WPKY Radio and YourSportsEdge.com. Thanks a lot for joining us this morning here on the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
WPKY, Princeton. Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. A new report out on the Uvalde, Texas mass shooting lays out missed chances to stop the shooter.
The 26-page document says that cops missed 3 chances to slow